This week with no guest, I asked our own Jen Akins to pound the table for best ball rookie this season. Jen, who you pounded the table for?
This week, I am pounding the table for Jordan Addison. Yes. So he's right now going a full round and change after Jaxon Smith-Njigba. And he's got just as much potential, to be honest, in that Vikings offense. I mean, he's going to be basically the third target there after Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson. I mean, why not, right? You're spending, I think they have similar potential, similar outcomes, a little bit cheaper. He is wide receiver 35 in the 7th round. So that's it. Jordan Addison.
I love it. I mean, KJ Osborne isn't scaring anybody. I love this. Absolutely. So everybody, go get you some Jordan Addison. Now let's get to the show. Welcome, everyone, to the Most Accurate Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Niles, and with me, as always, is the wonderful Jen Akins. Jen, how you doing, buddy?
I'm great. I'm enjoying this, just the two of us, a dual show this evening. I'm excited. I'm excited to talk a little rookie action. You know, it's usually not my favorite topic. However, we have a lot going on with it, and so I feel like, the people want to know. So
I think this gives you an opportunity to give me all of the well-earned settle downs that I need on my rookie. Because for years you've been editing my rookie love and me going off on how much I love a rookie running back and things of that sort. This is your opportunity, Jen. No holds barred to tell me how ridiculous I am. I think this is going to be fun.
I am absolutely ready. How are you? Aside from that, ready to be put in your place. But how are you otherwise?
I'm doing good. Bryce Miller, the new Mariners phenom pitcher, is just brutalized the Astros yesterday. And honestly, I can't think of anything to make me happier than a young pitcher for the Mariners brutalizing the Astros. So I'm high on life. I'm doing well, Jen.
You're sporting your new Mariners hat again. So
my Mariners hat, yeah. It's going to be at least a month of this until I work my way back into full on Dolphins fandom. But right now it's Mariner season. So before we get going, we're going to talk best ball rookie targets today, but I want to tell you about 4for4's new YouTube membership plan. Become a member of our YouTube channel, get access to perks such as live stream loyalty badges, exclusive emojis, priority reply to video comments, merchandise promo codes, and you get all these perks for less than $2 a month. Just join our membership program today at youtube.com/@4for4/join. It's fun. It's fun to follow us on YouTube and watch all the content that we have. But today, we're going to talk rookies in best ball, and specifically, we're going to talk a little bit of strategy and then talk about where these players are going, whether we like them, where they're going there, and whether or not we're buying, because we can all get rookie fever. I think it's a very common thing, and we're going to talk about some players that are definitely susceptible to rookie fever at this time.
So easy to do, especially this time of year. Like, there's nothing, like, it's hard to get hyped about, your standard person, right? I mean, Cooper Kupp, sure, great, whatever, but, it's like the rookie, it gives you something to do. We all are guilty of it.
It's
me a little less than others, but we are all guilty of it.
It's the hope. It gives you the hope. It's all exciting. Also, this time of year, you get into best ball drafts, and a lot of those of us who are doing best ball are also doing dynasty, and we're used to drafting these rookies. We're used to getting excited about Jaden Reed and players like that, but we don't really necessarily want to prioritize that in best ball. I want to talk to you. How many rookies on your best ball draft are too many, Jen? I try to kind of get a look at how many I have per position and whether or not I have too much exposure to rookies, because we know most aren't going to pan out, even though some are. So, Jen, when you're looking at your rookie exposure in best ball strategy-wise, how do you kind of divvy it out or decide, or is that even a factor for you?
It kind of is a factor. Like, in theory, it's a factor. But sometimes, mid-draft, especially if it's a fast 30-second, per pick draft, I'll kind of forget and then leave the draft and be like, crap, I have like 6 rookies and I didn't mean to, or I won't have any. But I think a few is really kind of where I like to be. Rookie running backs, I really like. I know you love them, but I like them. I like the later guys, and we'll talk about those guys in a little bit here. But I really like to target kind of the guys that are going to climb that depth chart later in the season, possibly when veterans could get hurt from too much usage, or possibly even close to the end of the season when maybe someone is not getting as much volume, sitting for the playoffs, that kind of thing, they'll throw that rookie in there and he'll get some volume. So especially in best ball, right, we want those spike weeks. So I do like to at least get one rookie running back, in the later rounds. And I like to have a couple receivers too, because I feel like they're kind of similar. And, we're all chasing that Justin Jefferson from a couple years ago, right, where he was like a double-digit pick and ended up, the wide receiver, whatever, I don't remember. But so, yeah, I think, in theory, walking into a draft, I like to have, a few. And like I said, sometimes I end up with too many and sometimes I have with too less because, sometimes you got to throw it out the window when you're mid draft, as we all do.
I feel like it used to be that rookie receivers wouldn't really hit. Roddy White would take a couple years. Whatever player you got. I mean, obviously you had your Randy Mosses and players that would do well, but for the most part, you wouldn't really expect a rookie receiver to hit. Kind of like you don't expect a rookie quarterback to hit or a rookie tight end. And that's really changed over the past 10 years with the fact that we have so many 4,000 and even approaching 5,000 yard passers, which we didn't used to have in the 90s and in the early aughts and things of that sort. So it is kind of exciting to have a couple rookie receivers on your best ball rosters. I try to keep it to 2 or less at receiver, 2 or less at running back. Try not to have more than one quarterback or one tight.
It's kind of similar even to like the old veterans. It's like on the other side of the coin. It's like all of a sudden you look at your thing, you're like, okay, I have, 4 guys 35 and over, not good, so it's kind of the same thing. Like you want to have a balance. And sometimes with those rookies, you can get, like you said, right? We all have rookie fever. And especially if you're drafting now, like in May, some of these guys are on the tip of your tongue because we keep talking about them and we keep reading about them and the draft just happened. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I have 4 rookie running backs in a row. That's not exactly a great plan.
And then you forget, because you look at the rookies and the names are there and you don't know what you're getting necessarily. So there's all that hope. But sometimes it's a good idea to just take Adam Thielen or to just take a player who's going to get some actual points for you. So it's good to get an idea and have that balance that we're talking about. It sounds like both of us are right in that, like no more than 6 and couple running backs, couple receivers kind of thing. I was going to say, I looked at our friend Pat Corain's $2 million lineup, right? And he had a build for Best Ball Mania. He won $2 million, had a 3-5-8-2 build, right? So if you're doing 3 quarterbacks and 2 tight ends, like, is there room for rookies in that type of a build? Is that still the optimal build? Is that what we're looking at? And are there room for rookies at those 2 onesie positions?
I think that there is no, well, I don't know. To me, I don't think there is an optimal build because I think it really just depends on who you're drafting. If you're going to take Josh Allen, you don't need 3 quarterbacks, in my opinion. If you're going to shoot for later on, then yes, why not grab, say two middle of the road, say a Geno Smith and a Jared Goff or whatever, and then you can grab a rookie at the end for your third. That's kind of where I go. And same thing with tight end. Like I'll take 3 tight ends if I'm going bargain basement hunting. But if I take Kelsey, I'm not taking a 3rd tight end because there's just no reason for it. So that's kind of how I approach it. So I think it just kind of, depends on where you're drafting from, right? Your draft spot determines that as well. And then once you're in the mix, if you decide to pay up for quarterback, then I mean, this is me. I usually stick with 2. I don't go with the 3rd, unless it's super flex, of course, which is a whole different animal. But if we're just talking straight up regular, Best Ball Mania, 1 quarterback, that's what I do. But, Pat also won $2 million with 3, and I don't know who his quarterbacks were. Do you have that in front of you?
Yeah, he had Brady, Tua Tagovailoa, and Daniel Jones. So that made sense. That would have been a build that we probably would have gone 3
exactly.
last year.
Now, if he would have had Mahomes or, or Allen or Jalen Hurts or whatever, he probably wouldn't have grabbed that 3rd tight end, or I mean that 3rd quarterback. So, I think, I will say though, as far as the middle positions, I like to have a couple more wide receivers than I do running backs. But once again, it also is the same deal, right? If you draft Christian McCaffrey, then I'm probably only taking, 5 running backs. If I'm going to dip a little lower, then I'll go with 6 or 7 if I don't have that stud running back.
Yeah, and he had George Kittle as his tight end, which makes sense why you'd only have 2 tight ends, right? And I'm kind of with you. If you're paying up early, and the thought process behind that is in this type of tournament play, you need your roster to pan out. So if you take Josh Allen and Josh Allen doesn't pan out, your team is probably already screwed. So
exactly.
why take the insurance there? C Slave Fantasy Football Garage, thanks for joining us. C Slave, I promised we were going to talk about Bijan Robinson in a little while ad nauseum. So we will get to your question there a little bit later, but I'm going to save it because there's a couple things I want to talk about first. I've been seeing the 2 quarterback build quite a bit. You said you really focus on that. We'll talk about this because the first guy I want to talk about is Anthony Richardson. When I look at ADP and I look at rookies, his name just pops out because he's going as the QB 10 right now, pick 86. He's going ahead of guys like Dak Prescott, and it's just a high draft pick for Anthony Richardson, and some people are very on board. It's a strong contingent of people who really, really support Anthony Richardson, think he's worth the value. Where do you stand on Richardson in that Colts offense and whether or not he's worth paying up for?
Yeah. So I did an industry mock draft. We did this over the week. Actually, we did it on Friday, and that was one of the write-ups that I did because Scott Fish took Anthony Richardson as QB9 in that draft, ahead of Dak Prescott, ahead of Tua, ahead of, and okay, so Jim Irsay has said that Anthony Richardson will start games. Yeah. Not how many, not from day one, but will start games at some point in the season. I don't know. I think he's, listen, Anthony Richardson had a fantastic combine, right? He absolutely did. He can run. He can throw. Yes, he had a great combine. He played 1 year at Florida, right? Starting. It just scares me too much. I mean, give me Dak, give me Tua over him if I'm drafting there. I don't know. I mean, listen, in theory, you'd think that he should be able to beat out Gardner Minshew for that starting job. He should. What if he doesn't? What if he's not ready? What if it just doesn't happen? What if he doesn't take to the playbook? What if he doesn't take to the NFL right away? Then all of a sudden you've got a guy that, may come in week 6 or 7 if they're losing, which they probably will. Maybe not. So I just feel like for that kind of draft capital as QB 10, I guess on Underdog, and I would rather get a proven veteran. And the thing is, I'm not anti-Richardson in general. Like, I would have drafted him where he was going. Like, I'd be cool with him as my QB2, but going in there as my number 1 guy on my team, not for me.
See, and I don't want him until he's my QB3, which just his ADP throws him completely out of that for me because I don't think he beats Gardner Minshew. Maybe he does later in the season. Maybe the Colts stink.
But
yeah, the Colts, they've got a good roster. They really do. It's why they were so disappointing last year, right? And Matt Ryan was so bad. Like, Gardner Minshew doesn't even have to be that good to be better than Matt Ryan last year. So Shane Steichen comes over. Minshew knows that offense. And sure, Minshew's 1-3 as a starter under Steichen. Like, I get that. And his numbers aren't great, but he's got a career 44-15 touchdown to interception ratio. Like, the guy knows how to take care of the football when you need him to. He knows how to make plays. And he's got Michael Pittman. He's got Alec Pierce. He's got 45 tight ends that we're going to scratch our heads every week trying to figure out which one has value. Mm-hmm. And Jonathan Taylor and a really good interior offensive
Josh
line.
Downs now.
Right? Josh Downs, yeah.
Option, yeah.
Really solid slot receiver, which we'll probably bring up later as well. I'm not convinced that Anthony Richardson starts this year. He might. But
I think he'll start at some point, but I don't know if it makes it enough to have him be a fantasy tight end 1, which is where he's being drafted. It just, And listen, we might both eat crow, and he might be like the end-all be-all generational QB of all time, but I'd rather give me Dak ahead of him.
Right? So. Yeah, every single day of the week. And let me ask you this: like, would it shock you if the Colts won this division? Like, would that be shocking to you?
No, but that division is gross. Like, it wouldn't shock me at all.
Right?
Yeah. No.
So we could see like last year, right, where Atlanta was trotting out Marcus Mariota despite him playing terribly all season. Like, they were trotting out Mariota because they were still in the playoff hunt because the NFC South was so awful.
Right.
It could be that way. The Jags might not be for real. The Texans, we know, are probably at least a year away from competitive ball. And the Titans look like they're on the way down right now. So I I would not be surprised if we're looking at week 10. Colts are kind of fiddling around 500 and still in the playoff race. And Gardner Minshew's still the starter because he's not a bad quarterback and he knows the offense. So,
I think it's baffling to me that all of a sudden Anthony Richardson is just being drafted as if he's the clear number one guy there and that he's going to, provide fantasy points week in, week out. I mean, it just, especially in best ball when you can't do anything about it. You can't drop him for the waiver wire. You can't bench him. He's your QB1. Like, no.
Yeah. And that's where you're drafting him. If you're drafting him there, wait a couple rounds, take Kirk Cousins in that spot, take James Cook, take Cortland Sutton, somebody that's going to actually get you a little bit more, activity. No, I'm with you. I was interested to find out if we'd be on the same page with Anthony Richardson, given the fact that he's so loved right now. So I get the rushing upside. I absolutely do. But I just think we're going to see that in 2024 and not 2023. Right. Other guys that you got to pay up for, Dalton Kincaid. I know you wrote an article about Dalton Kincaid. I know we aren't completely on the same wavelength with him as far as fantasy potential. So where do you stand on Kincaid right now going as the tight end 11?
That's where it gets me. I like Kincaid, and when I wrote that article, he was not the tight end 11. I think that's that's pricey. I mean, that's pretty much his ceiling at this point, and that's a little scary to take in there. I was a fan when he was like 16, 17 in that range. I was like, all right, he's a tight end 2 with tight end 1 upside. If they decide to use Dawson Knox as more of a blocker, and then Kincaid is the pass catcher there, tight end wise, I was all about it. Tight end 11 is a little steep for me. I feel like that's his ceiling. So I'm I don't want to say I'm out at that price, but if he climbs any higher, I think I'm out. But I do like him. I think it's a great landing spot, and I'm excited to see, what they do with him in that Bills offense. But tight end 11 is kind of steep.
Hey, he's going ahead of Dalton Schultz right now, which, there's not a whole lot of options there. And then you can wait a couple rounds. You can get Greg Dulcich, who I think has just as much upside in that offense.
Yeah, Dalton Schultz, I don't know. Dalton Schultz is a bummer. as we know, well, just the history of that Texans. I mean, I know it's a different regime now. We have a different coach, all of that. But, Houston tight end is not a fantasy match made in heaven there. We don't get a lot of Texan tight end action. So it's a little bummer with Dalton Schultz. So I can kind of see why he's going ahead of him a little bit, but give me Juwan Johnson like 10 rounds later.
Yeah, I like that. Take a few. We'll talk about this later. I've got a late round tight end that I'm targeting as well as my tight end 2 or 3, depending on who my first tight end taken is. But, just a few numbers to note that go along the line with what Jen and I are talking about here. Dawson Knox's finishes as the tight end 14, tight end 8, 37, 31 the last 4 years, right? So tight end 8, obviously, really nice season for him. Saw some touchdown regression, went down. You look at the second best receiver on the Bills offense, right? You had Gabe Davis, 28th, wide receiver 28 last year. The previous 3 years were all Cole Beasley, wide receiver 46, 26, and 34. This is the Stephon Diggs show, and Josh Allen spreads the ball around. So I do understand a Dalton Kincaid spike week, chasing spike weeks, but tight end 11, I think Jen is right. I think that this is going to be the ceiling that you're drafting him at. And I think it's going to be hard for him to consistently put up any kind of numbers. So in best ball, pay up for him maybe, but I'd much rather pay up for one of the other guys who's going to give you the same spike weeks and is not going to be quite as much of a disappointment based on where the expectations are. So we're simpatico on that one, Jed. I wasn't sure. I thought maybe you might be a little higher on Kincaid than me.
No, like I said, I was, but once he got to 11, that's tough.
Yeah. All right, C-Slave. Bijan Robinson. Let's do it, Jen. We've talked about this a little bit. He has risen to the RB2 in best ball. 6.7 ADP. I love rookie running backs. I love them. I draft them. Would happily take him at the back end of the first round because I'm crazy like that. However, RB2 is a lot. You're taking him ahead of Austin Eckler, and you're taking him ahead of Christian McCaffrey, or I guess second after Christian McCaffrey. I don't know. Jen, is there any rationale for this?
Not for me. I mean, I was out on him when he was, RB6 or something a couple weeks ago before his landing spot. Now,
very true.
Yeah, no. No. And I understand, like, I understand the talent there. I absolutely do. But the guy's never taken a snap, in the NFL. And it's too scary to me to just put, especially that early. I mean, as I told you before, I did an industry mock, and Shane Manila from DLF, he took him at 1-4. Like he took him as the 4th player off the board. And I was flabbergasted. It's just too early for me. I don't know. I mean, the Falcons are just, I don't trust. I don't know. It's tough for me. I just don't trust that offense yet. I don't trust Ritter to run the offense properly. I don't trust, I don't trust that Tyler Algier is going to just go away completely either. So
right?
I just feel like I'm down with Robinson, like as like a second rounder or something. Like, great rookie, here we go. But like as the 4th to 6th pick overall, it's a little too rich for me. I would rather, take Jamar Chase or, Kelsey, even whoever's there at that spot.
This is definitely going to be a year where I'm probably going to go receiver in the first round. It's just going to be who I am. Again, I liked Bijan Robinson at the turn. I'm kind of with you, but 4th overall is pretty steep for me, even for me, because I don't think Tyler Algier is completely going away. I think Bijan Robinson's going to get a full workload, but I think Arthur Smith understands that having multiple backs is a good idea. I think he wants to run the ball, and I think Robinson's going to be great. I think he's going to be really good. I don't think it's going to be a full-on committee. Like, I don't think it's good. I think Robinson's going to get 15 touches a game at least, probably some in the passing game as well. I also don't know that the Falcons are going to be good enough to be able to stay in running situations, and they've got Kyle Pitts, they've got Drake London. Cordero Patterson, I don't think is completely going away either. Not that I think he cuts into it or takes over, but I think he might steal just enough to keep Bijan Robinson from getting the type of volume that like Saquon Barkley gets or something like that. So I'm with you. It's a little rich for me, even though I really love rookie running backs. Another guy, a little too rich for me, Jahmyr Gibbs has shot up draft boards. It's insane how high he's going at this point. I was looking, and Gibbs is the RB13 now, going at 36.9. That's really high for a rookie running back, especially one that doesn't have the same every down potential that Bijan Robinson has. Are you buying Gibbs at that high number?
Once again, no. It's tough, though, because you look at the Lions and you're like, okay, they spent a lot of their draft capital on him. So you think, okay, he's going to get that monster volume as a first-round pick in the NFL draft. But at the same time, I mean, they have a couple other bodies in there. It's not like, I don't know. I like... It's tough because he's not as expensive as Robinson, obviously. So you're not giving up that much, but you're still giving up, what, a 3rd-round pick?
Yeah, and you're taking him over guys like Najee Harris and Amari Cooper and DJ Moore, and if you want to go quarterback, Joe Burrow's going later than that.
Right.
All those guys are going ahead of Kenneth Walker, which we'll talk about the Seattle running back situation later. But it's scary. It's scary to invest that high of a pick in a rookie, especially a rookie who's entering a committee, because David Montgomery's there. Like, that's happening.
And they gave him a decent amount of money to be there as well. So I think that, I mean, I think, like, once again, if he was more of a 4th, 5th rounder, I'd be more into it. But I think where he's going now, and he may continue to climb. I mean, that's the thing. It's, I have a article, you guys that are listening, you go check it out. It came out this morning on 4for4. It's the biggest risers and fallers in ADP over the last week, basically since the draft. It's been 1 week since the draft. So ADP is kind of shifting and moving, and he may even climb more, which is a little bit, even scarier. I think, I feel like he's getting a little too rich for me.
And there are reasons to like him. Like, I get 403 available carries, 105 available running back targets in the Detroit passing game. So there's things to like. But David Montgomery's going to eat a lot of that. And I also am starting to get a little concerned about Detroit Lion fever. Like, I like the Lions, and I like Jared Goff. I like Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think that there's things to like there. But this isn't an offense that carried a lot of fantasy options last year, consistent fantasy producers last year. We had Amon-Ra and we had Jamal Williams, and Jared Goff was solid, and that's pretty much all we did. And so it's hard for me to say we're going to buy into Sam Laporta and we're going to buy into Jahmyr Gibbs and we're going to buy into David Montgomery and Amon-Ra and Jameson Williams when he comes back from the suspension. I think at some point there's going to be some sort of breaking point on all these targets, and I'm not going to pay that much for Gibbs as a result. I don't think he's going to catch the 100 balls that people are starting to talk about, and I'm excited for the kid. I'm going to look for him to do well and be a big part of the offense, but ahead of the players that he's being drafted ahead of, I'm just not interested.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Once again, we are in agreement.
We're kind of big bummers on these rookies.
Yeah, we're not fighting right now. Maybe we will in a bit, but I think we can. I expected you to be more all in on all these guys just because you're the rookie running back.
They're going too high. I just can't. Like when Saquon Barkley came out, I was able to I drafted him as the RB5 and people thought I was crazy, right? But
yeah.
RB2 is tough. RB2 for a rookie is really, really tough. Let's talk about those 4 first-round receivers. Let's start with Jaxon Smith-Njigba. Wide receiver 29, 58.3. You got to pay a little for him. It's not a super high cost, but you got to pay a little for him in that Seattle offense. Is he worth the cost for you?
Yeah, I think so. I like him actually. I think he landed in a great spot with Seattle. I feel like he's in a good spot to stack, right, in best ball, because Geno Smith is once again completely undervalued. I mean, I think he's QB 16 right now, and that's just off the top of my head. I could be wrong, but and I feel like he's going to end up. Yeah, listen, if he plays the same as he did last year, I mean, Geno Smith, we've seen the tale of several Geno Smiths, but if he plays as he did last year, he could, easily be in fantasy tight end 1 or fantasy quarterback 1 territory. And, if you miss out on DK Metcalf, I feel like JSN is a really good option there for cheaper. There's a lot of, they've been searching kind of for that guy to slide into that offense. Tyler Lockett's getting a little older. Their tight end, game is kind of garbage. So I feel like JSN, I like him there.
He's going ahead of Tyler Lockett, which is really interesting.
Yeah, he wasn't obviously before the landing spot, but he is now. So Tyler Lockett's actually a good value as well now if he has slipped below. I mean, he is getting a little older, but he's always, he's consistent. Last year, nobody wanted him. And he ended up being great as always.
We're unofficially called the Chris Carson and Tyler Lockett podcast.
We just kind of are, and I always find myself gravitating towards Tyler Lockett because he comes up on my turn and there he is, and I'm like, all right, I guess I'm gonna have him again, and and I feel like that offense, if like I said, if Geno Smith from last year shows up again, those guys are in good shape.
I'm going to disagree with you on this one. I like the talent. I think it's a 2024 pick. I think that the volume in Seattle isn't going to be there. I think they want to run the ball. They drafted a running back in the second round 2 years in a row. Pete Carroll loves to run the ball. I think that he's going to have some spike weeks, but I think it's still going to be Lockett and Metcalf getting most of the looks this year. And he's going ahead of guys I really like Brandon Ayuk. I think Brandon Ayuk in that draft area is an underrated target. Someone nobody's talking about. You can get him a little bit late.
You can have him.
Yeah, had a quietly productive year last year. I think that he saw Mike Evans is going beyond George Pickens. I'm real high on George Pickens this year. I know that'll make you happy, but George Pickens is a guy I really like this year. I just rather take the guys that are going after Marquise Hollywood Brown, Jordan Addison, your boy Addison's going after.
No, absolutely. JSN. I mean, listen, I'm not taking JSN every time.
Yeah, sure.
Will I have some exposure? Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'll have him in Dynasty. I'll buy that 1.05, 1.06 spot that he's going in a lot of Dynasty leagues. Superflex, right? Higher in non-Superflex leagues. But I'll buy him there, and I'm excited about him. I like the talents and all that. But this year, I don't think we see the same Geno. I don't think we see passing volume. I think we see a quality Seattle team that isn't quite as ripe for fantasy production as we saw last year, especially at the receiver position. So that's where I am with JSN, Jen.
All
right. Let's go. You talked about Jordan Addison a lot. I'll just say that I agree with you on Jordan Addison. I don't know what to do with him as far as a prospect profile perspective. I look at him and he looks like a difficult prospect to figure out what he's going to be as a pro. Maybe a really good wide receiver too, but Minnesota needs a really good wide receiver too, and Kirk Cousins throws the ball a lot. And so I think Jordan Addison's probably in the best position amongst those 4 first-round wide receivers to succeed as a rookie. The other guys probably, bad spots or low on the depth chart. Quentin Johnston probably going to start out wide receiver 3 on that Los Angeles Chargers depth chart. He's a little cheaper. You can get him as the wide receiver 43, pick 88 behind Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. Are you buying Quentin Johnston in that territory?
Yeah, I think so. Why not? I mean, I hate to throw out the injury prone label, but like both Mike Williams and Keenan Allen certainly, can find themselves on the sidelines. So, and Josh Palmer is Josh Palmer. And, I don't know, is Jalen Guyton still there?
He was hurt all last year. I think he's technically still on the roster. But
I just feel like, Quentin Johnston for that ADP, why not? I mean, there's definitely potential there. I mean, Justin Herbert can throw the ball, that's for sure. So, if one of those guys goes down, he has a chance to move up. But even if he doesn't, like you said, he's probably the wide receiver 3 anyway in that offense. So why not?
Palmer had 107 targets last year. DeAndre Carter vacated 46 targets. I can't imagine. Palmer had all those targets, and Mike Williams missed time, and Keenan Allen missed time. But was there ever a point where we looked at a game and we said Josh Palmer is emerging? This is something Josh Palmer's doing?
Because I will tell you, I was excited about him going into the season, and I had him on every redraft team, and he sat on my bench, and he was the debate: do I drop this week? Do I not drop? Dead weight, not dead weight? Okay, do I start him? He annoyed me all season. He was rough, and of course, I never picked the right weeks, and one of those. So, no, I don't think he's broken out or emerged, and he's had the chance. So, and he had a couple of decent weeks. I was actually looking at his stats earlier today when I was writing that Risers and Fallers article, and I think he had 2 games of over 100 yards and 1 like in the 90s, something like that.
And I'm with you. I'm buying Johnston here, and I'm actually not a big Johnston fan as a prospect, but he's first round capital, good landing spot as far as a pass happy offense. I agree with Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, not exactly Iron Men as far as I root for them to stay healthy. And then you look at the other guys going around him. I mean, Brandon Cooks, Jahan Dotson, Zay Flowers, fellow rookie, which we'll get to, Cortland Sutton, Jameson Williams. Like these are the guys. Like they could all bust. So. Might as well sprinkle in some Quentin Johnston.
Brandon Cooks, man, I don't know if I can go there anymore.
In Dallas, it's tough, right? Because where are those targets coming
from?
Broken
my heart year after year after year,
Last year was really tough.
Got to pull the plug.
Yeah.
I talk myself into him every year. Like, all right, target monster, here we go. And then, nope.
Last year was extra disappointing. Last year was very disappointing. So, Is that part of your Houston offense? What's the word? Like the fact that you're so concerned about the Houston offense and buying into it. Is this all just Brandon Cooks PTSD?
I think it might be like a residual I think so. I think it's like the recency bias, residual PTSD, all of it lumped into one. Just, I don't know. My body and my brain will not allow me to get excited about anybody. I'll take Dameon Pierce here and there. Sure. But
in best ball, I'll take Devin Singletary too, because I think he's going to get touches and he's so cheap. You can get him so free. I'll put him at the back end of my roster.
I don't think I've taken him once yet this season.
Yeah, I think he gets touches. He's a good little back, Devin Singletary. People don't like him, but he puts up good games. So, and he's free. He's very free.
No. I don't even remember seeing him in the honestly, I haven't taken him once.
Yeah, it's true. Zay Flowers, another guy. I love Zay Flowers as a prospect. That's the difference between these other guys. Hate that he landed in Baltimore. Obviously, Todd Monken comes over. We don't know what Baltimore is going to do as far as using.
I know a fair amount about Todd Monken, just
Yeah, absolutely.
As a GA fan.
So tell me, like, should we be hopeful for Zay Flowers in this Baltimore offense now that we've got Monken there?
I don't know. There's your answer. I don't know. And it's funny. I've had actually several people ask me about Todd Monken, and he likes big explosive plays. Like, I just don't know. I don't know. This offense has always been tough to read, and then you add a new person in the mix, calling the plays. It's so difficult. You've got Odell Beckham there now. You have Rashad Bateman. You have Zay Flowers. You have the usual menagerie of running backs that they have over there too. So
and Mark Andrews is still the wide receiver one, basically.
Exactly.
So.
And Isaiah Likely is probably, maybe even get a bigger role there if they do, 2 tight end sets. I don't know. That offense is difficult to figure out. And to be completely honest with you, I've kind of just avoided it this whole offseason because I don't know. Now that Lamar is solidified and whatnot, I should probably invest a little bit in that offense. But throughout the earlier part of this offseason, I just kind of avoided it altogether.
Rashad Bateman's going a full round later. Now, obviously, Bateman has injury concerns based on the first 2 years that he's had in the league. But when he's played, he's either racked up targets or hit up a big play. So I'm kind of buying Bateman around later instead of Flowers, even though I really like the talent. I don't think Bateman's going away if he's healthy. And right now, he seems like he's healthy. So.
Yeah, I mean, we know this offense. I mean, sure, they could sit here and say that they're going to throw more, but are they really? Who knows? It could just be Andrews or nothing again, with a little bit of OBJ sprinkled in here and there, and Flowers could kind of end up on the outside with not a lot of volume.
Yeah. So those receivers were the last spot that I was looking at these players and thinking to myself, okay, that you got to kind of pay up, right? So everyone else, I think, is at least falls into some level of a value. So let's talk about Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. We could talk about the two of them together. QB 22, QB 26, respectively. Picks 151 and 172. So you could wait a long time. In what situations are you targeting either or both of them?
I really kind of am not. I feel like at that level, honestly, I'd rather take Baker or I'd rather take.
Oh,
yeah. Even Darnold, to be honest with you, maybe some Jacoby Brissett. I don't know. I mean, I need to kind of tweak my thinking now that they have homes and now that, but like we've said, I'm not big on the Houston offense as it is, as far as Stroud goes. And I mean, Bryce Young, I think I might try to mix him in a little bit because I think he's got some decent weapons there. And we'll talk about that, I guess, in a little bit because they do have a rookie wideout that I like. So I don't know. I just feel like they're okay, but I feel like when you're gambling that late and you're kind of throwing darts at your QB3 or QB4, I'd rather go with a veteran there. And that's just me. Even though both of them are going to be starting, so they're more guaranteed than Richardson. So I guess I should kind of change my mindset. Maybe I just did right now on the podcast.
Stroud especially is probably going to start day one. Like I'd be shocked if they trot out Davis Mills again this year. Now Bryce Young, they've said Andy Dalton is going to start week 1, which is really interesting that they're doing that.
Right.
I don't think the Carolina Panthers are going to win enough for Dalton to keep that job very long.
Right.
We've seen what Andy Dalton has brought to an offense for the past few years, and it's not great. And Carolina isn't really built to win right now. So I'm a little more bullish on seeing Bryce Young by week 6. So so Bryce Young is right now an active part of my 3 quarterback builds. He's the third quarterback a lot. CJ Stroud, I've mixed into my 2 quarterback builds when I get a really solid starter, just because I think the offense is going to, I think he's going to have a really long leash. I think that the offense is going to work for him. I think that the targets there aren't quite as bad as we think. I'm not high on Houston, but I think Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz, Dameon Pierce, Devin Singletary, that quartet, I think is enough. They've got a pretty good offensive line. So I think Stroud will stay upright and throw a lot. So
Robert Woods?
Robert Woods, yeah. Robert Woods is their great blocking receiver. So I forgot about Robert Woods. But I think Stroud's going to be a little better than his ADP. He's probably the rookie quarterback that I'm targeting right now because he's available like a couple rounds after or a round after Bryce Young. And I can get him as if I've got Josh Allen or I've got Patrick Mahomes or I've got one of those top quarterbacks, I'm okay with CJ Stroud being my number 2 because I think he's going to be there on the bye week.
The only people I just keep scooping up. I can't stop drafting Baker. I know it's ridiculous, but I'm just like, he has weapons. Kyle Trask is not going to beat him out for that job. He's going to be there at some point. Now he may lose the job. They may bring in a veteran or something as the season goes on. And look, who knows? Baker may even end up on another team at the end of the season and put up fantasy points there. You never know.
Possible. It's
possible.
I just,
he's so cheap. And I'm like, if he pans out, if he actually plays, X amount of games, you're looking at Godwin and Evans and Cade Otton, who I've been pairing him with Cade Otton, who's ridiculously cheap too. So I've been doing that stack.
We're gonna get to Cade Otton, my friend.
Okay. Oh, was he?
I think I've drafted Cade Otton in every league that
I have a lot. I had to stop because I was like, I have too much Baker Cade Otton. Like that's been my QB3 tight end 2 or tight end 3 combo for like almost every early best ball. So I had to restrict myself from taking Otton, but that combo is just so easy and so cheap. And I get it. You see the name Baker Mayfield and you're like, nah. But when you really think about it, you're like, okay, there he is. He's got this Tampa Bay offense. Kyle Trask is not good. He has no experience. So I just don't see him winning that job in training camp.
Great weapons in that Tampa Bay offense,
right?
Even right down to the pass catching running back Rachaad White, who I'm a fan of.
Exactly. So I'm like, he's secretly like in a really good spot and he's really cheap. So I just can't stop taking him.
Yeah, I agree. Will Levis is going QB 34. We know Ryan Tannehill is probably there one more year and probably just one more year. Is Will Levis too risky to sprinkle in, or are you sprinkling him in occasionally? Because he does have the rushing upside.
He does, but honestly, like, I'd rather take Tannehill. Like, if we're in that situation, because I'm like, Tannehill, at least he's going to play for a while, if not the whole time.
Really till he gets hurt, I'm guessing.
So he may have those spike weeks. I mean, definitely not as a QB1 or a QB2, but I'll take Tannehill late once again, if I need to. I don't think I have drafted Will Levis yet, and I don't know that I will.
Yeah, I in Dynasty, I'm grabbing him at the top of the second round. I think that's good value. That's a good spot because I do think he will start in 2024, and the talent is there, even if it's raw and even if the bust potential is high. But you're right. In redraft best ball, I just don't think it's going to be there. Now, Tannehill doesn't exactly have a sterling reputation for staying on the field, and the Titans could be really bad. And if those two things, come to a head, we could see Levis this year. But if it gets that dire, I don't know that Levis is going to have a tremendous amount of success either. So,
I mean, last year, we had a similar situation, right? With Malik Willis. Everyone was drafting him and was ready. And then Tannehill ended up just playing.
Yep. So most of and then he got hurt and all that, but whatever. No, I'm with you. So that's kind of the quarterbacks. Now, tight ends, there's a bunch of them there. I want to kind of highlight a few. And just kind of let you talk about any one that you are buying because they're all available really late. So it's really a matter of you can pick one of these guys if you want. Just choose when to draft them, and they're there. So we've got Michael Mayer as the tight end 21, Sam Laporta is the tight end 23, Luke Musgrave, tight end 33, and Luke Schoonmaker, tight end 34. All guys with a potential to win a starting job early, all guys with athleticism, pass catching ability. Are you buying or sprinkling in any of these guys? Anyone you have as a favorite?
Yeah, I mean, we know, right? I mean, we've said this ad nauseum that rookie tight ends rarely pan out for fantasy. So I'm not eagerly super stoked about any of them, but I feel like you have to kind of sprinkle some of them in because I feel like, one or two may hit and they may, especially for those big weeks, you may have a random week where one gets 3 touchdowns out of nowhere and he's sitting at the bottom of your roster. Why not? But, as far as which ones I like the best, I mean, opportunity-wise, I feel like I like Sam Laporta. I think he's got, I know you already said you're not really super into the Detroit offense, but with Jameson Williams.
I am. I just feel like we can't expect everybody to do well.
Right, no. But, you've got Jameson Williams sitting out for the first 6 weeks. So I feel like, Sam Laporta, if he, takes to the NFL and takes to the offense and all of that and can actually learn how to be a professional tight end. He has a great opportunity for targets there. I think that, Michael Mayer, like Vegas, I don't know. People are super excited about it. I'm not as much. I don't know why, but I feel like, Jacoby Myers is that now there. Hunter Renfrow, you've got Devontae Adams. I don't know. With Jimmy G, I'm not sure how much leftover volume there will be for him there. So I'm not as stoked on him as Laporta. And then who else are we looking at? Oh, Musgrave and what's the other
Musgrave,
guy?
Schoonmaker, and really anybody else, like any of those, like Tucker Kraft, like whoever else you want to bring up.
Right. I think, Schoonmaker is a little bit intriguing, right? I mean,
There's an opening.
I mean, Jake Ferguson is Jake Ferguson, right? So I feel like there's an opening for him to come in there and earn that role. And Dalton Schultz, really that spot has had a lot of volume over the last however many years with Dak, whether it was Jeff Swaim or, Blake Jarwin. Is that
Blake
right?
Jarwin, nice pull.
I just pulled that out of somewhere. Yeah, I mean, those guys have always had volume there. So I feel like there's an opportunity there. As in Green Bay as well. You've got Musgrave and
Tucker Kraft.
I wanted to say Tyler Croft, but that's somebody else. Tight end though, also, right? Tyler Croft?
Yes. Okay. Very good. Jets and Vikings, I think.
Similar name, but not really. But yeah, I mean, they're all kind of darts. I mean, I feel like in your portfolio, if you're only doing one best ball draft, maybe take none. But if you are, in your portfolio, I would sprinkle them all in at some point, along with a little Kincaid, just to, because you never know. I mean, in recent years, we've had rookie tight ends at least crawl into tight end 2 territory. There's only been a few that have ever been tight end 1s, but the last couple of years, Pat Freiermuth did it. Greg Dulcich did it last year. So, I mean, it can happen where you get some good weeks out of these guys. So I'm not opposed to any of them, really.
Yeah, the fact that they're so cheap makes them appealing, right? And especially, you brought up Laporta. Laporta is someone who I kind of thought would shoot up draft boards, and the fact that he didn't puts him still on the board for me. If he was going around where Dalton Kincaid was, which is what I was kind of expecting him to land after he landed in Detroit, since they have such a glaring hole at the position, and he does profile as a receiving tight end. That's how he profiles. So, but the fact that he's going where he is, I'm definitely going to sprinkle him in. And then I'm a little different than you on Michael Mayer. I love Michael Mayer. I think he's an absolute steal at tight end 21. I think that he won't need to be. Well, I think he's ready to play right away in a way that most rookie tight ends, are not, and because he can block so well. So the fact that he blocks really well and runs good routes, he was super productive. He had 9 touchdowns last season, 7 the year before. He's a 3-year starter, got better every year. I think Mayer in that Raiders offense doesn't need to be phenomenal to be a value here. I think that he's going to be a top 12 tight end easy. Like he's not going to be he's not going to be a top 5, top 6 tight end, but
you want
Darren Waller's gone. I'm not a Austin Hooper fan. I know you like
Austin Hooper. Should we do a little wager on Kincaid versus Mayer?
Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, Mayer finishes ahead of Kincaid. Absolutely. Okay. Now, injuries will void the bet.
Of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So just making sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm good. We will come up with the stakes. And listeners, if you have an idea for stakes, we are open to those stakes. But yeah, Mayer over Kincaid. I'm there. So
sounds good. Works for me.
He's also, like I said, tight end 21 makes a big difference for me. The fact that he's tight end 21. So he's going around Irv Smith and Gerald Everett. I'm very, very happy to take a stab at Michael Mayer there. And I'm okay with him as my tight end too in a good build. If I've got a really good tight end, I'm okay with Mayer or Laporta at that.
What is a really good tight end though, Brandon? Let's be real.
Right. It's Travis Kelce. That's it. It's just Travis Kelce. So, whereas those other guys are dart throws in 3 tight end builds for me. I'm not going to touch Schoonmaker or Musgrave or anything like that in 2 tight end builds. So,
no.
Cade Otton's the guy I'm targeting. He's my late tight end. He's my, like we talked about.
Yeah, I am my Juwan Johnson. But I did just, a brief second ago, I saw, before we came on, I saw something about Foster Moreau possibly going to the Saints, but then I was like, doesn't he have?
He has a medical issue, right?
Yeah, but I saw the blurb and I was like, wait a minute, maybe it's just a ceremonial edition for later. I don't know, but for right now, like wheels up on Juwan Johnson. Like they didn't.
Sure.
They traded Adam Troutman during the draft. They did not, add someone else. Like how are people not all over him? And he's. Let me see. And
it's not like the Saints are flush with targets in general, right? Chris Olave and then question marks.
He is.
So
I'm trying to find. I can't find him real quick. Of course, when I need to, he's like,
that's
there he
is. Derek Carr knows
16.
how to use a tight end. We know that.
He's tight end 16, so he's moving up a little bit.
He is moving up. That is a little bit higher.
But still, I mean, he's still pretty cheap for considering his situation.
Here's what I love about Kate Otten, Jen, and I'm just going to go back to Kate Otten. That's what I'm doing. So, apparently, Juwan Johnson and Kate Otten.
Like, I'll tell you, I've been drafting him all spring. Yeah. So you can,
that's the commentary here. That's the note is Juwan Johnson and Kate Otten, because Kate Otten had 4 games of double-digit PPR points last year, and he was like the 3rd tight end most of the season. And he came into the draft as this guy is only a blocker. That's all he can do. So we already know he can get snaps, right? And then he got snaps and was like, whoa, he can catch and he can run routes. And Tom Brady really liked him, and Baker Mayfield, I think, is going to like him. So I don't think he's going to be a tight end 5, but I think a tight end 15, top 15 tight end, I think is within the realm of possibilities for Kate Otten, and where he's being drafted. Sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't touch him in redraft, but best ball, yes, I have plenty of Kate Otten.
Do you ever draft 2 tight ends in redraft?
It's interesting that you say that, because normally I don't, but I actually did in the mock that we did this weekend. Because I kind of ended up panic drafting Kittle, like by accident. We did the mock on Sleeper, which their ADP is totally different, and their rankings are way off. And I didn't go through it ahead of time, and I got sniped on the pick right before that, and it's only a 30-second clock, so I was panicking, and I took Kittle. And you know how I feel about Kittle. I like him, but
he's not very reliable.
He makes me very, very nervous for injury's sake. So I did grab Kincaid in round 14 or 15, like one of my last picks. I just threw him in there just to have him. So normally, though, I do not take a second tight end. I will just stream. I mean, we all end up streaming anyway, right? If you don't have, that's just how it is. No matter who you take, whether it's, Higbee or whoever you take, you're going to end up streaming anyway. So I usually only take one in redraft.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm just curious. Okay, so we're actually coming up on time. I was worried we wouldn't have enough to talk about.
We haven't even gotten through.
So we're gonna cross a lot off this list that we were gonna touch on, but let's hit those running backs. Let's hit Zach Charbonnet and Devon Achane right now. Charbonnet enters that Seattle backfield. We can kind of talk Ken Walker as well. Walker's going now as the RB15, which is a huge plummet, available at pick 44, and Zach Charbonnet RB31 at pick 101. Is it me, or both of these of value?
I think they're both value, and I'll take them both. But once again, as we talked about earlier, I will always take Seattle running backs.
We're the unofficial Seattle fan pod. Neither one of us are Seahawks fans.
No,
but we love these
not
guys.
at all. But I will always take a Seattle running back. As long as Pete Carroll is there, I will always take a Seattle running back. Because not only does he establish, and he runs and runs and runs, but they all get hurt there. I don't know what the deal is, right? So, at this point, DJ Dallas, they're all in play. Kenny McIntosh, my boy from Georgia, I've taken him too.
I took my first Kenny McIntosh the other day. I thought of you, Jen.
That's awesome. But yeah, listen, he's in play too, because God forbid, you got Ken Walker gets hurt and Charbonnet gets dinged up, and all of a sudden we're in the DJ Dallas, Kenny McIntosh, sweepstakes there. So I feel like they're all in play, and especially if people don't love Charbonnet's landing spot, so he's value because he's not getting, he's and then people are letting Ken Walker fall. So like you said, they're both value, and I'll take them both. Not at the same time, but I'll take them both.
Honestly,
you'll take them both at the same draft?
Because they're so far apart in ADP. If I had to take them back to back, 4th and 5th round, like you had to do with Penny and Walker last year, which I actually did that once, and that team worked out pretty well. But Walker and Charbonnet, I'll stack them both. I don't have a problem. I think both of them are going to get work. I think Walker's going to get those spike weeks, especially in best ball. He's going to get those spike weeks because he's such a big home run threat every time he gets the ball. So we're still going to get a lot of play. And in the 4th round, take him. I'm absolutely going to take him there. So it's interesting that he's fallen as far as he has.
No, I agree. People are freaking out about the landing spot of Charbonnet and freaking out about Ken Walker. It's you've seen Pete Carroll, right? You've seen what he does. These guys are going to both get work. They'll probably cannibalize each other a little bit, but at the same time, definitely better than a lot of other running back situations around the league.
Yeah, especially in best ball. In redraft, I'm still interested in these guys, honestly, but probably a little more squeamish because we might have a which week do you play him kind of situation.
Yes.
So. Devon Achane to our beloved Miami Dolphins. Talk about this whole Miami running back room, because this is interesting to me. All these guys are pretty affordable, and all of them could really produce.
Yeah, they are all affordable. Achane, Mostert and Jeff Wilson have both fallen. And Achane, I think, has gone up a little bit, but
RB35.
And once again, you've got, Mike McDaniel. I mean, comes from the Kyle Shanahan situation. So it's a little frustrating for redraft, right? I don't know that I want to touch any of them in redraft because you don't know who to play. But in best ball, I feel like all three are in play. And once again, both Mostert and Wilson, have spent time on the bench being injured. So
it's true.
A chain, he might be one of those guys that maybe doesn't start off the season. Earlier in this podcast, I was talking about those rookie running backs that come on strong at the end of the year. I feel like this could be that situation for a chain. Like he might start off slow and you might get frustrated from a redraft perspective, but watch out in best ball because he might come on strong, weeks 12 through, 17 or whatever. So I like all three, and they're all at the moment affordable. I feel like a chain is somehow gonna creep up a little more. It's only been a week. I feel like, once training camps open and we see the workload and we see what these guys can do, a lot of these ADPs are going to, flip flop, between Wilson, Mostert, and a chain.
I think you're probably right. I'm grabbing a chain as much as I can because of that. I do think his ADP is going to go up to the point where I'm not going to be interested because he's not a sure thing. But he could be a league winner. I agree with you. Wilson and Mostert, trust their health at your risk. I think a chain could really do it. Lots of other rookie running backs. Just pick one that you like. Is any of those other rookie running backs that you might like at their ADP right now? Because for me, it's Kendra Miller. I'm grabbing him.
I was just going to say same. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't hate Chase Brown either. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with Joe Mixon. So Chase Brown has potential there to, climb that depth chart pretty quickly. And same with Kendra Miller. They're both in really similar situations, right? The starter in that backfield is potentially facing legal issues / whatever. So both those guys might, end up. There is one guy that you did not include on your little listy here that I wrote down to talk about. And that is Zach Evans for the Rams. He is, RB 60 right now. His ADP is 202. And you're looking at Cam Akers, which, I mean, what do we do with Cam Akers, right? And then Kyron Williams, like that's it. So you've got this rookie guy. I mean, listen, once again, rookies in for the Rams have burned us all, in the past. But this guy, Evans is super cheap. So why not throw him in the mix? Because you never know. This might be the year that a rookie running back sticks for the Rams, but we'll see.
You never know. You absolutely never know. And then Tyjae Spears is interesting too because I think he does get some work there, but I don't see him being.
I was right. Yeah, I was writing about him this morning. As far as we all want Titan, backups to be good, and they just never are. Like it's always true. Derrick Henry or nothing.
Remember Hassan Haskins?
Yes, Hassan Haskins, Darrington Evans. Like we're all fired up about these guys, and then they don't pan out. So that's the thing. I'm tempering my expectations on Spears because the history there is that backup to Derrick Henry. Even when Derrick Henry gets hurt, it's like, I don't know. I mean, Dante Hilliard or Dante Foreman and Dontre Hilliard, like they both combined for okay. That 2 years ago when Henry got hurt, but other than that, a whole lot of nothing from backups in Tennessee.
Let's. I wanted to have a Chicago running back conversation. Let's save that for another day because that's going to be a fun conversation in general. Let's hit the wide receivers real quick. The remaining that next tier. I'll talk about that second tier receivers. We saw a whole bunch of receivers go off the board in the second and third round. Talented players, interesting landing spots, and they're all available pretty cheap. They're all picks 130 to 180. Wide receiver 59 to wide receiver 79. I'm talking Jonathan Mingo, Rashee Rice, Josh Downs, we talked about briefly, Marvin Mims with the Broncos, Jaden Reed with the Packers. Any of those guys really stand out to you as particularly good value?
I like them all. I mean, Rashee Rice is interesting to me because I feel like he's been climbing draft boards. He was on he was one of the biggest risers in the wide receiver category. And I get a little nervous about that. Chiefs, it's just tough. There's a lot of bodies there, and
I bought all the Sky Moore stock last year. I still have the stock.
I know
it's very low right now.
So he's one that I'm kind of not super into, but he's on the best offense, out of that group. So you're just like, okay. But Mingo is interesting, I think, in Carolina because I think he's going to see the field right away. Josh Downs, similar situation. I feel like he's going to be that wide receiver 3 after Pittman and Pierce, right? And then Jaden Reed, same deal. I mean, he's competing with, after Christian Watson, he's competing with Romeo Doubs, who's super inconsistent, and 2 rookie tight ends.
Yeah.
So, it's like if he can produce, he's going to produce. So I think they're all interesting, especially because they're all cheap.
Yeah, and we had Derek Klassen on last week, who did agree with you. Thought Josh Downs would win that slot job immediately. Thought Jonathan Mingo would play quickly. Jaden Reed's probably the one I'm targeting because he's the cheapest, and I do think he's going to be the wide receiver 2 there. Maybe the Green Bay Packers offense, maybe it stinks. I don't know, but we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
We have no idea.
Yeah, we don't know.
Any interest in Marvin Mims? He's the one I have a hard time drumming up interest in, but. Just
curious.
I
can't. You know what's interesting though? In that offense, the one that I am interested in, who's even cheaper, is Tim Patrick, because he has fallen off. Right? They drafted Mims, and so Patrick fell to ridiculously. I can't remember because he was in that article I wrote this morning as well. He had a pretty decent slide in ADP, and like Tim Patrick's good. Like I like Tim Patrick a lot. So and he's cheaper than like Mims has leapfrogged him there in ADP. So. I'm not really interested in Mims, but I'll take Patrick.
And those trade rumors haven't exactly gone away. So maybe Sutton and Judy.
Oh, right.
So if those trade rumors, if anything comes to fruition and you took Tim Patrick as your last pick in best ball back in May like that.
Yeah. There's also KJ Hamler too, and he'll be back.
Hamler too. Yeah. Hamler won't be back.
You don't think so?
I think Hamler is.
I mean, physically he'll be back. Like he's cleared to play.
That's what I mean. Is physically.
Oh, you don't think?
I mean, we've done this. I feel like he's been in the league for 47 years, and every year I think he's healthy. Every year he's gonna be healthy. Every year he gets healthy, and then he just isn't. So I hope the kid stays healthy. I feel bad for the kid. I just think he's one of those guys who's just never gonna be available, unfortunately.
Okay.
So, but he can run down the field very fast, so that's something he could do. In any event, this was a blast, Jen. I'll relieve you and let you have the rest of your evening. I've taken up a full hour from you. I appreciate you, Jen. Any final thoughts before we go?
No, not at all. Yeah, I mean, if you guys want more, like I said, there is an article on 444 right now that I wrote this morning. The biggest risers and fallers in ADP. I'd say like 85% of them are the rookies that we just talked about. So if you want more information on these rookies and all that, their ADPs and where they were, where they are now, their fits, all of that, go check that out. It is a free article.
Excellent. Go check that out. And follow Jen on Twitter, of course, at Jen Akins NFL. Follow me on Twitter at 2guysbranding. Listeners, thank you so much for checking us out. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. Become one of our YouTube members and get those loyalty badges. Thanks so much for checking us out, and have a good day.